Marianna, welcome to On Purpose.
Thank you for having me.
No, it's so great to have you. I've been looking forward to this, and I loved the interview we did for your podcast 2 years ago now.
Yeah, it was one of my favorite episodes, and people loved it so much. And so I'm so happy you're coming back again.
Yes. I'm excited to come back again. And, you know, you've just been on this incredible journey with your brands, your work, the community you spend time with. You're such a respected voice, such a well-known face in the industry, which I think's really hard to do when you've done it from building a brand, when you've done it from building social media. It's hard to maintain that. But I want to go backwards today because as we were researching, we also found that you don't always share too much about yourself. And that's obviously what On Purpose is built upon. And I wanted to ask you, and I ask this often, what's your earliest strong memory as a child? Can you remember, if you could go back, what's one of your strongest, earliest memories? And why is it so important to you? And I'll tell you mine as I let you think on yours. If I think about my earliest memory, I can probably remember holding my sister when she was born. So I was around 4.5, going on 5. And I remember her being in my arms, and it was amazing to have that opportunity to actually hold this baby. And I remember my parents had been preparing me for this moment, where they were like, you got to pray for a new little friend to be in your life. And so for weeks on end and months, I was praying. So I was prepped. And then when my mom was going to hospital and everything, I remember my dad staying at home with me and doing puzzles and keeping me occupied and getting me ready. And then finally, when I held my sister, it was such a moment. And the reason why, and I think about how that moment impacted me, and I feel my parents did a great job at me being excited. And at the same time, I feel that's been a big part of why I feel so close to my sister. And I often call my sister Kid because I see her as my little child. And so there was a parental aspect. I feel like I became quite fatherly early on. So anyway, that's my earliest memory of 4.5 years old. I want to know yours.
We have a mutual friend, Audrey, and she was asking me the other day, how far back do you remember? And I'm like, I remember my first day of kindergarten. She's like, you do? And I was like, yeah, I can remember waiting in line. I can remember my backpack. I remember going into school. And it really was memories from 6 on where I remember a lot. At the time my parents got divorced, I was 6. So this is very early 90s, before a lot of families were getting divorced. And I had grown up in Germany. That's where I was born. And after my parents divorced, my mom went back to Germany. And this is very modern of my parents at the time, but I ended up living with my dad full time. So my dad was a full-time single parent. They were cross-continental co-parenting, which is it just seems very crazy thinking back then. But I think it's a lot to my independence now because I started flying by myself to Germany to see my mom when I was 6.
Wow.
So my dad used to take me to the airport. This is before TSA pre-check. This is how long ago it was, where your people could walk you to the gate. So my dad would walk me there, and then someone would take me on the plane. I would fly to Germany. I would meet my mom there on the other end. And I'm an only child and a youngest child. So I have 2 older half-sisters, but I was my parents' only kid. So from a really young age, I had this independence of, okay, I could fly to Germany by myself. I can do everything by myself. And I think my parents always treated me as an adult at a really young age, and they instilled independence in me. And they always treated me like I was an adult. So my parents are much older now. My dad is 85. My mom is 72. And so I think they were at a phase in their life where they were a little bit more grown up. They had figured things out themselves, and they said, this is the way I want to parent. I'm not going to smother you. I'm going to let you be your own person and figure things out. And I think that independence has really gotten me to where I am today. And so when people are like, how do you travel all the time for work? I'm like, I've been traveling since I was a baby. So it's something I'm so used to.